this will be a more of a long form video, sort of in the style of Suzanne on non-duality. Shout out to you, Suzanne. And in the backdrop you get to enjoy the city of Santander in Spain, where I currently live since just a little while back. And I thought that in this video I'll just reflect, not really any structured thoughts, just personal reflections on the path and what I make the path to be right now. You might hear some noise in the foreground. I'm sitting just at next to a ballpark and a parque de infantil for children, but I think that'll make a very suitable and nice backdrop to what I'm about to speak about, because I think that, well, I've been reflected on the fact how I've always wanted to be a grown-up ever since I was a kid. So since I can remember, probably, when I was 5, I wanted to shave my beard and go to work with a suitcase, that sort of thing. And then that just increased in intensity as I got older. In my teenage years, I would take on a lot of jobs and internships and school council and you name it. And I think it was in this attempt to feel like an adult. And I'm not sure where this idea came from, that being an adult was somehow maybe better than being a child. Maybe I was seeking some sort of validation. Maybe, it's the way that the adults in my life encouraged me to grow up and to be more responsible, so that I ultimately would do better for myself in life. And I think I really took that on. And a lot of this path for me personally, for this character, has been about unwinding that to some degree, to finding the child, doing a lot of inner child work, of course. I loved coming across IFS and learning all about working with the different parts of myself. That really clicked for me. Before, I was a little bit lost in all of the different modalities that are out there, and I think everybody finds something that works for them. But I really fell in love with IFS because it just really resonates with me to observe all of the different, you could say, personality or sub-personalities that make up this character. I'm talking to you right now, this guy, Milo. Who is this guy? I sometimes wonder myself. And it's such a beautiful journey of uncovering those parts that we might have repressed, the parts of ourselves that actually yearn to be a child, while simultaneously holding them together with all the other parts. And I really do love the title of Dick Schwartz's book on I suppose it's become an IFS Bible. It seems like the go-to book for anyone getting into IFS right now, which is called No Bad Parts. And I remember that as I came across my teacher, Sid Friedman of Effortless IFS, who really kindled this interest in IFS. One of the things that really stood out about him to me was how he saw every part as precious, innocent, and beautiful. And whereas speaking to you right now, I can honestly say that is my experience as well. And that is, wow, just reflecting back on the path, I have to say I didn't expect to arrive here. I mean, I did to some extent, but it really seemed out of reach. That point of view, that sentiment towards all of the parts, and I say all because it's not just my parts, it's like all of the parts that I get reflected out in the external world. There's really the separation. I can't find that anymore. Other people's parts and my own parts, and vice versa. So when I say all parts, truly, I mean all the parts of everyone I meet, everyone I see, including my own. I can find how they are precious. They're beautiful and they're perfect, albeit perhaps sometimes innocently confused. They are trying to get at something from a misguided notion of perhaps what the thing even is. So, parts of us might want to have a great career, make a lot of money. I think quite a lot of people realize that what's really being sought there is stability, safety, freedom, perhaps. I don't think that's that's not too far of a shot. I think most people are aware that in the pursuit of money, there's really something else that's being longed for. But it's so good to approach this part with this new understanding. And approaching them not from another part, because we all have those, or at least as for me personally, as I stepped on this part, I think that a lot of my personality shifted from being oriented towards the traditional career, prestige, money pursuit. I was in tech. I was gonna, maybe have a startup, maybe make it big in corporate tech. Wanted to be a software engineer. Then I quickly transitioned to product management and leading teams, because that seemed even more adult, right? And I suppose in all of that, I was seeking some sort of validation, landing a job or a function or a title or a salary that would finally make me feel like I've arrived, like I'm good enough. Like I can tell my dad, my family, like, hey, look at me, I've made it, maybe even enjoy some envy from my cousins and friends, from my brother. And like I said, that I can look at those parts with such a sweetness, because I see that really what they want is just that acceptance and love, a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling self-worth, and unwinding a lot of the hurt, a lot of the conditioned hurts that we're carrying, in our cells, in our body, in our soul, and then the energy field. In this specific example, there's probably a lot of somewhat of a classic fighter wound about validation, where whatever I did was never quite good enough. So I always had to excel and be even better in the pursuit of perfection, so that I would finally feel like I am good enough and get my dad's, the proverbial pat on the shoulder. You've made it, son. And seeking outwardly to whether to heal those wounds, or whether to, even if we don't recognize a wounding being present, but just grasping outside of us for the next promotion, for the next big salary check, or the next relationship, whatever symbols we're seeking that will provide us with that deeper thing that's really longed for, is just so sweetly misguided and innocent, right? Like, it's that sweet. I think Sid, again coming back to my dear teacher Sid, who's taught me just so much, and it's no longer his words, right? Like, I really can find that in my own experience, this kind of new lens that we adapt along the way as we open up to love and compassion. It's such a beautiful mirror, because it opens inwards and then outwards, right? Like, I feel more compassion towards myself, all of my parts, and everybody else in my life. And I'm not perfect. There's still days when I give myself a really hard time. And there are moments when I judge others too. But the trajectory of the love and compassion that I've been opening up to is just beautiful. And it's beautiful in its own kind of way. It's not beautiful to be beholden by somebody else. It's not even so that I can record those videos and share about my path. I do find great joy in doing that. It feels like a form of self-expression. But there's something deeper here as well. There's just love is somehow to be expanding in love and allowing more love in, and be a channel for that love to also spread, like becoming a beacon of love essentially for oneself and for you know, your fellow men, fellow brethren and sisters, is so fulfilling and beautiful in by itself, because it's like something so deep, interesting to our true nature, which is actually love, right? It's awareness, knowing itself, playing this game with a myriad forms, playing this game of forgetting that we're all one. And as we remember it in this way, love is like a side effect, right? As I remember that you and I share our being, we're more than family, you know, like the love that you feel for your nephew, brother, son, daughter, your truly sort of loved ones. It goes even deeper than that, because you recognize that you are even closer than family. You are literally the same consciousness looking out from the vantage point of all of these different people that you, to some extent, mistakenly take to be separate individuals other than you. And as I have those glimpses that, you know, sometimes go deeper, sometimes I lose myself in the world of separation, but coming back to that sense of unity and connection and compassion for our joint struggles is just, it's kind of what to me life is about, what life is made of. It's like, you know, enjoying a good dish, right? Like you can't dissect it further. It's just like an experience that fills your not only tummy but your heart. So opening up to just how perfect everything is, even in this misguided form, when our parts have forgotten, they haven't, like, it's like they're not aware that the sun is shining, right? That the sun is actually there. They have forgotten that it's there. They have forgotten that safety, fulfillment, joy, love is our birthright and is our nature. And I don't have to do anything to deserve it. I don't have to do pretty much anything to earn it. But I am so loved by God, which is me, right? Just on a different level. I'm essentially a fractal of God. I am God living this dream, choosing to live this dream, to experience myself, for I am infinite. I am infinite potential of everything that can and will ever be. And so those things, in order for those things to come into form, they need to manifest through me and you. And this, you know, and these mountains and these hills and this ocean and the kids playing here. This is the infinite potentiality of the absolute coming into form and playing. And as part of the play, because of the freedom that we yield, for we are indeed infinite and we are omnipotent. There is no limit on our power, for there is no force outside of us, right? I mean, so, some of this apparently, even traditional scriptures and religious have gotten right. It's just difficult to decipher it before we kind of really begin to have our own experience with it. It's really difficult to go through the regular path. I suppose for some people it worked. For me, never did. I honestly despised traditional religion and going to church and all that. But I am developing such an appreciation for it now because I can translate it and I can find the truth within it. And the truth is that there is no other force than me and you, because we're one in this big dream in God's mind. And because of this infinite freedom that we get to enjoy, we get to choose to forget ourselves to really extreme lengths. We get to completely forget where we came from and who we are. Isn't that mad? Isn't that the greatest freaking magic trick in history of magic? It's like Dumbledore got nothing on us as God. I mean, to pull a trick where I forget that I am indeed the dream. I am the dream. I am the dreamer, and I'm everything around that I can. I'm these mountains, and I'm this lake, and I'm these children. I'm the voice talking to you, and I'm these thoughts, but I'm also neither of that. I'm emptiness itself, speaking to itself, right? As part of the game, I'm exploring what it's like to be this character talking to other characters interested in the same thing. We're all on this joint ride, just having fun or not, right? Like, because I promised myself that if I would ever start speaking about this, as I myself got into this whole like non-duality obsession, let's be honest. I consumed so many videos on YouTube, and it was a bit of a jungle to go through. And there were glimpses along the way, but there were initially few and far between. And so I really struggled to understand what, my favorite teachers were talking about. Shout out to Anna Brown and my brother Matt Garrett, who I just resonate with so much, and not to mention the sort of the greats, right? Adyashanti and Ram Dass, and even Eckhart, who I came across much earlier, but I didn't quite see what he was pointing to with the power of now. And those learnings kind of penetrate you, right? And they sink in, and you really have to tune in to hear the transmission, not with your mind, but with something else entirely. They awaken your being. But it didn't happen all at once. I didn't get struck by a lightning that enlightened me on the spot. And it took years. And I promised myself that as I would start speaking about this one day, if I would, I did feel a pull towards it already back then. I just felt so captivated by this topic, and I felt that if one day I would have the clarity, I would love to share to whatever extent. And here I am doing this. So thank you guys for being with me on this journey. It's really like a dream come true for me to be able to share about this from my own experience, because I try to the best of my ability not to recite other teachers, but to speak from my own heart, because I think that's what the world needs. We're still in the early days. It's a shock, honestly, that so many of my friends develop interest in this, to whatever extent, right? It might be just picking up Eckhart Tolle's book. It's a small step, but it's a step in this direction, right? I mean, that's what set me off. I do think that was probably the first quote-unquote spiritual book I read, and then followed by Ram Dass's Be Here Now, and what else was there? I think Mooji was there early on for me. But it doesn't really matter, right? Like, I'm not name dropping those teachers so that you can look them up and so that you can follow the same path. Your path will be uniquely yours. And that's the beauty of it, right? Like, we all have our path. But what I'm saying is that I am surprised by how many of my friends that are not leaning, spiritual leaning, that kind of begin to, maybe read or develop some interest in this. Of course, the majority still don't. Because it's a reflection of where we are as a society. We're a very young society spiritually. We have a long way to go, and we're still, we're in our infancy, right? We're still really preparing for, intergalactic contact, to flipping our science upside down, recognizing the primacy of consciousness over matter, right? That matter is not something that, due to its apparent structure, gives rise to consciousness as a byproduct. It is the other way around, which is not a theory. At some point, it's your felt sense. It's, like waking up from this dream of being a struggling separate self in a world, in a cold and different world made out of matter, seemingly due to some cosmic flux of impossible improbability, right? That we're just here living this life, but that's not what it is. It's a dream, exactly the same way that you dream at night, and you don't imagine that, if in your dream you were driving a car in the streets of Monaco in a Formula One, maybe. When you might have felt very real, but when you wake up, you don't imagine there was a car, or there was Monaco, or there were any streets. Was there even a you in that dream, right? There was just the light of awareness constructing an image, a dream, with a doer, with a character, with a car, with streets, with a world, and with time and space, yo! Isn't that so cool? There were certain things that I suppose must have, resonated maybe with my being deep inside, because we all carry this memory of what life is and what it isn't, but certain things I just thought sounded so bat shit crazy, right? But in an alluring way. It's like I wanted them to be true, and I wanted to understand them, because hello, we live in the Matrix. There is no you, there is no self, there is no time, and there is no space. Please tell me more. And yeah, that took years, right? Because probably by design, you can't extricate yourself from such a fundamental belief as to the reality of the world in an instant, right? In a flash. That would likely be extremely destabilizing to your psyche. Because even if we're God, but we're embodied in human form, and we have a psyche. This character is going through this very turbulent process at times, and he needs time. He needs apparent time, right? He needs time, and he needs love and compassion and a fellowship, which is why I'm hoping to create a bit of a community around this channel. And it's a beautiful ride. And I even wonder, maybe to some people these things are not as interesting. I imagine that they wouldn't, because we are all, the different fractals, right, of the infinite, with our own unique personality traits and constitutions. We're like this, kaleidoscope, right? We're all different, and that's the beauty of it, that we come from the same source of infinite potentiality. And then there's Milo, and maybe there's Lisa, right? Shout out to Lisa Cairns. I don't know if Lisa finds all of this no space, no time, no self equally exciting. I have no idea. For all I know, she might be much more into the interconnected of our being, and the love and the peace that's here, which, don't get me wrong, I love as well. But hello, you're telling me that I'm essentially hallucinating this? All of this? There's no space, there's no time? I just thought it's so cool. And I can't wait for, you know, our science, because that's where my background was. I was sort of like a diehard you know, atheist and scientist. I studied computer science, and I always had an interest in the supernatural, but I was a skeptic, right? But I love organizations like Science and Non-Duality, SAND, and so many other prominent scientists that begin to speak about, you know, joining the spiritual and science, because they cannot be butting heads for long. That's not going to get us anywhere. We're probably going to hit a wall where science cannot progress from this wrong paradigm of believing matter to be primary, right? Like, we need to understand that everything is God's dream, and then we really get to be conscious creators and play, right? That's I think what's gonna happen. And just feeling at some point, right? Because there, along the path, I felt that there were moments of sheer confusion where I didn't get anything. I really didn't. Watched so many videos, especially from Rupert. Hey, Rupert. Another shout out. But Rupert has a brilliant mind, and when I found him, I found that he actually spoke to a lot of those questions that I had, because of my like very intellectual science background. I had a lot of just very logical questions, which, let me tell you, it's not going to get you very far initially, because the mind really does get in the way of this. But I appreciated him making an attempt, you know, at indulging people such as myself asking those questions. So there's that first step of perhaps understanding things conceptually, that I found at some point that I could really, you know, I didn't have to watch a video. Like, I saw a video in the related section, you know, like, after finishing one video, why don't you watch this video with Rupert about this and that? And I found that, like, yeah, I still could, but I knew what he was gonna say. I've watched so many hours of him explaining things that at some point I was like, yeah, I could ask myself, what would Rupert say? And I knew the answer. So clearly, conceptually, I got it, but it was still very far from being my lived experience. I still felt myself to be a separate, struggling self, feeling separate and at odds with a lot of circumstances in the world and people around me. And most certainly, I didn't find any evidence for non-duality in my immediate experience. It was just like a gimmick. It was an intellectual understanding, and at some point maybe I could understand why it makes sense, as opposed to sounding just like extremely mystical and esoteric. I could actually find that, oh yeah, okay, you know, like, I could actually begin to wrap my even logical mind around it. But then the big leap comes when it becomes like a felt sense reality, right? When you begin to live the dream. And I remember that opened bit by bit. Again, like, my process was very gradual, where I went from this conceptual understanding of, like, you know, almost telling myself that, like, yeah, this is a dream, how cool is that? This is just a dream, this is just a dream. And then at some point, like, holy shit, this is a dream. Like, whoa, this feels just like a dream. This feels just like a dream. Can't think of any examples, you know. There are many and few and maybe even insignificant, but there's the best I can do to describe them is that they're like energetic openings where suddenly it's not known by the mind, intellectual mind. It's not a concept. You feel it. You feel it. It's like, you know, knowing that you're cold, like, maybe I should put on another layer. and then actually feeling the cold in your bones, right? And just like your body being actually cold and you just knowing it intimately, not conceptualizing it. Yeah. And at that point, when the illusion, there are cracks in the illusion, in the matrix, whatever you want to call it. I'm not calling all of this a simulation or a matrix. I don't really vibe with that terminology. It makes it a little bit too dry for me. It's not that it's wrong. I just don't, it's not a computer-based simulation. I don't believe that it necessarily is. It can be viewed as such, right? I mean, that can be helpful. Because that's the beauty of it. You can view reality in an infinite amount of ways, and they will click and they will be true. And certainly one thing that I borrowed from my friend Atlas over at the Simulation channel, he talks about digital metaphysics, and I love how he explained reality to be self-reflective, that essentially whatever belief you put into your simulation, you will have reflected back to you, right? So if your belief is that you're literally living in a matrix, you will see evidence for that. And I think that's cool, that I imagine that probably helps people wake up too. I just see this potential pitfall of actually taking it a little bit too literally, that they're like machines, we're enslaved, we need to wake up from, whatever, right? Like the whole movie. That's not about it. It's more about just like, really waking up from the dream. That this reality is not what it seems to be. It's an illusion, right? So it's not real, because that can lead a little bit to like nihilism, where we feel like, oh, well, if nothing is real, this is just like a silly dream, then like whatever, I'm just gonna, I don't care, right? Like I'm just gonna stop trying altogether, and that's not really it, right? You can stop trying, because if you're trying to be kind, if you're trying to enjoy life, then there is something wrong, because it should feel effortless, or rather, maybe I should say, it is possible for it to feel effortless, because again, that is within your freedom. It is within your freedom to choose for life to feel effortless and wholesome and loving and beautiful. But you have to choose it. That's the belief you have to begin to run, right? You have to upgrade your OS, and you have to change the OS of life sucks, people are evil, the world is a broken place, to like the world is a perfect reflection of me as God, and everything is perfect because I'm exploring myself. I'm exploring the high spiritual highs and the deep horrible lows, and high and low is just like a human discernment, right? That we enjoy connection and despise, I don't know, war, I guess. Most of us do anyway. And yet we collectively choose to experience war right now on this planet, and there's a good reason for it. We are evolving as consciousness. We're learning through this experience. We want to have this experience, right? And this is a question that I still grapple with on like kind of bad days, like why so much suffering? And I mean, long story short, to just give my one-liner, why do you go to the cinema? Why do you pay to watch a scary movie, right? Or like a horror or a thriller or an action movie? Why don't you only watch feel-good, happy ending comedies, rom-coms? Because you want to explore. You want to explore what is that experience like. To have somebody chase you with a chainsaw. And it's funny in that way, right? Because like on some level you maybe feel, maybe you're that kind of person who doesn't do that, who doesn't go to cinema to see scary movies. And that's fair enough, but that's again within your freedom, right? To choose. Like if you don't enjoy that life of strife, challenge, fear, anxiety, conflict, then you're free to choose otherwise. You just have to flip your beliefs, because you need to, that's like the first step that I am still learning to this day. Like another thing about this path for me, it seems like it's just like layers around the onion, right? So you've done one lesson, you think, oh cool, I've recognized that now, and then, you know, whenever, a week later, a month later, a year later, you're repeating the same lesson, because you go deeper. It's what I said before, that like maybe you've understood it on some conceptual level, and then you go way deeper into the somatic, visceral, you know, like it touches your soul in a deeper way. There's an even deeper understanding of what it means that I am ultimately responsible for my life. It is the ultimate letting go of a victimhood mentality. Nobody's doing anything to you. Because, right? Because there is nobody else, as in there is no outside force. You are the only force in effect in all of the universe. So on some level, you must be choosing this. And I have come to learn by experience, and I'm still learning to kind of fall deeper into that trust. Everything is happening for me, not to me. It is happening by design, by my own design, because it serves whatever experience I want to be having. It serves my soul growth. It serves me to experience the thrill of not knowing what's gonna happen and feeling maybe some fear or anxiety around things, only to then realize down the line, oh my god, I never had to worry about that, right? It's like, oof. And then recognizing that on a increasingly deeper layer or level. And then, you know, the sweetness of that recognition, where it hasn't been easy, but it hasn't been cheap. It's been almost hard earned. And even that is a choice, right? Because I can find a part of myself where it's like, I'm so tired of those hard earned lessons. Sometimes it just feels like too much. I've had a lot of breakdowns, and this path hasn't been easy on me. And again, can you hear it? Like right this moment, that's the victimhood mentality, right? That like some guardian angel overslept, snoozed, forgot to help me out, or my higher self signed me up for this intensive course that I now regret, I don't enjoy it, and please take me out of here, I'm suffering. No, I'm just running a set of beliefs that get reflected to me. And if I don't enjoy it, so if I don't enjoy the fact that those spiritual truths and my spiritual growth is hard earned and it hurts, then I need to identify that belief and change it, right? And the only caveat, I suppose, is recognizing from which place am I doing that, right? So am I doing that from a struggling part that is a bit jaded, a bit afraid, like, you know, making full circle now, right? To these beautiful, perfect, and yet innocently confused parts, right? The belief that like, oh gosh, if only this was my reality, then I could relax, I would feel safe, I would feel loved. That's not gonna work, right? Because we're just gonna try, you know, law of manifestation and The Secret and higher our vibration and do a bunch of practices and affirmation and whatever, and I've got nothing on them. I think they're beautiful and they can really work once you kind of understand why they work. But essentially you are creating from lack, right? You're identified and blended with this part that innocently believes that it is separate and oof, please God, if only my life was easier and it hurt less, then I will be much happier. And the trick is identifying that I am that wholeness, I am that safety, I am that love that's being sought already, like right here. No, zero distance. It's not around the corner, it's not tomorrow. It's not when I finish this course and when I do another retreat, when I nail my affirmations or whatever. It's when I become a better person. No, it's available here now. That's the direct path, right? So you just go there now. I'm kind of, you know, speaking to myself, right? Like I'm preaching to myself because I'm still walking this path. And so find the love, find the satisfaction, and from that place of love, again, as it stops being like a thought, a concept, but it actually trickles through into this somatic feeling of feeling held and loved by God, right? And I don't, hopefully you understand, right, what I mean by God. It's not this guy in the sky holding me. It's my being, it's my heart, it's the love, it's the universal, cosmic, boundless ocean of love that I am part of. I am it, and I am also a part of it, right? Like, I am the ocean, and I am also a wave of the ocean, as this character is speaking to you right now. And as I allow the love to melt some of those old stagnant conditioned beliefs that I am not safe, that safety is not here, love is not here, all of that needs to be hard earned, as I allow those beliefs to melt away, I come into truth. Not a belief, but truth. And truth is, we're all one. There's only unity, because nothing can stand outside of the infinite. Hence, we feel love, because we feel love where we are connected. And in recognition of that, there is beauty. And nothing can be added upon me, because I am the infinite. Nothing can be ever taken away from me. Nothing can be ever lost. So I am also eternally at peace. I have nothing to worry about. This is just a dream, right? And reminding myself just now not to just make it, thoughts, but to actually stop and breathe into these truths and allow them to touch me and to live more from that place. It's been a joy sharing this with you today. Do leave a like or a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm really hoping to start, a little bit of a community around this channel and to interact with you more. I've never done a video like this long form before, so I'm really curious about your thoughts. If you made it so far, I appreciate it. So yeah, do leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.